I visited so many companies turning around, business and communication is usually missing. That the top is always saying the right thing, but at the shop floor things don't kind of match up.
No.
And I talk to them. I talk all the department, and there's a barrier, the silo syndrome, and there's different languages here and there.
Yeah.
So I'm like a doctor to see where the bottleneck is and find a way to streamline it so that the whole organization get more vital. So it's very simple. And then I'm into Zen and meditation, which is the same thing. I call it me and the company and the mini companies, me and the mini me's.
Yeah.
And they have the department and the communication and what's the priority and the bottleneck is get lost. So when I was doing it, I was into the meditation and Zen. So it's the same concept. And not just the company, the organization to make a mess up with among, and now because of the internet and the AI and political tribalism, and this relates to your subject of what's happening in the shop floor, which is the ocean and all the biological, all the stuff that is alive, to be how do you call it, suppressed or ignored. And I look at from the shop floor point of view, and not believing them because they always say a nice thing and the PowerPoint presentation. I hear you. I don't say that. And so anyway, the same thing happened to my own life. And I guess that's a good point to kind of talk about what you have done. I feel that there's some connection and you're kind of wild. There's no boundary to go from here to there. You just go with the intuition. And like I was working with different companies, different countries and all that. So, but you have any question about what I do? And it's kind of weird, perhaps. But what I do then is that I've been doing for years, right? Work-wise, but doing the YouTube thing for my own reflection because I want to see how I'm doing. And the concept is the same, to see, in this case, looking at myself in the mirror to see how I'm doing. And then I don't care much about other people, whether they watch or not. Usually 10 people for view, it doesn't matter. So all of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, about the time when we met, someone referred me as this guy's doing this for the last 18 years, 17 years, and he's apparently not doing for the money, right? And then people start jumping into my place. And more people and, the subscriber going up and interest. So I use the word listening to your heart, not just in the brain. So that is the sense, whether they pick up or not, but I'm kind of playing with the, my expressions, massaging, so that eventually, who knows what. But as much as I did one organization, now I'm talking about the whole internet universe. But who cares, right? You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah.
Tell me what you think.
Well, I think the biggest problem when you talk about that sort of from the top down,
right,
is the capitalist way of thinking. Is that
authority
So and the reason why I think our societies around the world are melting down at the moment is because that gap between those people who are in power and the people on the
wealth gap and all that,
it's getting too big.
Right.
And we've seen historically that has led to collapses of entire civilizations.
Wait, let's go slowly. Entire civilization, entire nation or something, or the civilization itself, you're saying?
It breaks down.
There's a pain point or something that starts to snap.
Yeah, it's called a tipping point. Yeah, so,
tipping point, right? Yeah.
And I think we're getting very close to that globally. We're seeing it here in New Zealand. We're seeing a rise of, you've seen the solidarity within Māori, where you've got a predominantly white government that is coming in and pushing racist views. And what that's done is collectively, not just Māori in this country, but all migrants who are here see the same value situation where they're being basically told that they're the underlings in a system that doesn't work for them. And you're right, you know, I travel from one world to another world easily.
Liberia and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I do that because I'm not motivated.
Let me know, why did you do it? Just because of the exploration or interest of whatever's happening? Just hear the news and you just want to jump into it?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is that. Like the Red Cross work that I did, I felt that at that stage of my life, I was making a lot of big documentaries for Discovery and National Geographic, and it was, the audience was becoming more and more, isolated away from the reality of what's happening. We were seeing the rise of reality TV. We were seeing a rise in sensationalism within the media.
So when you say audience, what's the definition of the audience? The people who are the common people?
I'm a storyteller. So the people who I tell stories to are the audience.
Right.
So there was a detachment there. And I felt part of that detachment was that I was getting detached from certain areas of life.
Right.
And that sent me to war zones.
But where was that, your case, caused by? Personal thing or that?
It was caused by a typical capitalist type dinner where we had a whole bunch of friends around drinking expensive wine, eating a beautiful meal that we were privileged to be able to eat, and the TV and playing in the background, and it was the Rwanda genocide in Africa. And
how can you do that?
Drinking and laughing, and in the background, tens of thousands of people are dead, and we weren't affected.
Right.
Our conversation didn't change. I watched everyone at that table glance to the TV,
but ignore it,
detached. So the next morning, I got several of the people that were in that room, and I said, "We watched something last night unfolding in Africa that's horrific, absolutely horrific, and none of us were moved by it."
Moved means, the story.
Emotionally moved.
Right.
So I felt I needed to, emotionally reconnect with that. I want to, if I see that news on the TV, I want to have tears in my eyes. I need to have empathy.
So just to bring in my side of the story, it's the same thing that when I moved from Japan to the US, I saw the disconnect and the empowerment and the people to have their destiny. So it's kind of similar in that sense, right? You listen to your heart and... And that disconnect happens in all facets of life. And today we see America particularly where the audience is being dumbed down by fear, media.
by media who are controlled by corporate giants, controlled by billionaires. That oligarchy rising up to control everything now, and they control with fear. You know, the whole rationale behind Trump getting into power was fear. It was...
How could he do that much to that level? Do you have any opinion about it? Because there's the basic human nature of following the leader, which, I mean, what's your story why he could get to that level?
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a
genius in the sense.
He's a felon. He's a rapist.
Right. Everything
he could possibly do bad, he has done or is doing.
Right.
And yet he's the president of the United States. How did he get to that point?
Yeah.
He played on fear, on people's fear.
Yeah, you have this problem because of that, and they believed in it.
And they believe in it. And people just want hope. And if you instill fear, then you can play on those hope strings. Because everybody, if you're living in middle America, and you're scratching to make a living, you're working in a mine or you're working in a car factory, you want hope, you want to believe in the American dream that things are going to get better.
Let me stop there and let me go back and forth. Because on my end, that vulnerability that they feel, I want it to be reversed, is a word, to be empowered instead of blind faith or something like that.
Yeah.
So my approach with the YouTube is, this is the impossible job to make that empowerment happen, that, my destiny can be kind of a thing. And I'm stupid to think like that, right? Because unless there's some level of lifting up of the knowledge and the wisdom and the possibility, whatever is done, money and the media would take over, and there's no way out. So my thinking is of the YouTube is I wrote books, similar notion of the West Indonesian people empowerment and all that stuff, but nobody read the book anyway. So I'm old and I don't have much energy, or they don't read it. So that's why the only way I can do it is talk about it, and I don't care who listens. But my mission is related to that, doing good for the people, us, everyone, and to help myself. I have to help to be energized and help others, and have this heart brought into the system, and having fun in the process.
Yeah.
And bringing the heart into the system, I use the word like calm and quiet mind. We have to have some sanity level that what mind has to calm. But it's not so easy to get there. And the message may be right, but how to grab it is difficult. So I just throw all that stuff in there.
Yeah.
Like your documentary here and there. I'm just mini documentary, mini universe, and just to say a few more words, so that the numbers start to go up because someone said that this is some. So then they start to go down, obviously.
Yeah.
And then start to come up a little bit. So it's kind of interesting to see that organizational behavior. I'm looking at the whole world. I mean, I'm joking, but theoretically speaking, that what is the behavior pattern that goes down? So right now, after 2 weeks or so, it's interesting, and that's where I am. Just to give you a sense of. So I may have went into the wrong direction, but I think there may be something in common. I don't know.
Yeah, there is. There definitely is. And I think some of us have empathy from the start. I think our system, the system in which we're all growing up in today, puts the wrong values into our youth. Because when we get to our age, when we get older, suddenly we start thinking about other people. We start thinking about what have I done? What's my
reason of being here?
I've been here for 60 years.
Right.
Why? What have I actually achieved?
Yeah.
I found that at 40.
Right.
And for 22 years,
right.
I have been focused on giving back.
Okay, so that age 40, what was the triggering event? I mean, this event you talked about TB and the Rwanda, whatever.
The triggering event was spending 18 months with the Red Cross in war zones and disaster areas and seeing the worst of the worst, and seeing how people were struggling, how events were destroying communities.
So this is after the shark story, and you went to the 2/3 of the book, that area, right?
Yeah.
So I haven't started.
You haven't got here yet.
Yeah. But I'm into it more or less. But this is plentiful. There are lots of stuff about the ocean and the shark that I'm interested too. But that's why I thought, I better grab this guy to see before I get lost. So that's the triggering event. Okay.
Yeah. So that was a triggering event for me. Was going. We were one of the first field hospitals to arrive in Banda Aceh. And after the Boxing Day tsunami.
Which country is that?
That's
Indonesia?
In Sumatra. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Northern Sumatra. So Banda
that's right. I read that part of it.
180,000 people died in 3 minutes.
And you went there in a few weeks or something?
We were there within days with the field hospital. So
and in this case, how did you arrange it? You and the crew.
We literally. After we go back to that dinner party, it was this table too, in Dunedin, sitting around, and okay, so how do we reconnect? I don't want to feel anything. I need to feel empathy for what I was seeing on the TV. So how do I connect myself?
Right.
And if I can connect myself, then hopefully I can connect the people that I make documentaries for.
may join or do something.
So I can take them
So
on
that
my
comes
journey.
afterward, right.
Yeah, they come on my journey.
Right.
But I have to connect myself. I can't watch the news now
Right.
and see something terrible happen and not have tears in my eyes.
Yeah, the same as
And
me
then-
with the company at the shop floor level, what they're suffering and all that. Otherwise, we don't communicate. Right.
Exactly. So connecting is absolutely important. So we went out and we did 18 months of the Red Cross. We went to Banda Aceh, 180,000 bodies. Horrendous. None of the crew that I worked with on that first trip ever went to work with me again.
Because
The mental
much.
health issues it was way too much. We went into West Africa, we went through
so you have something living in you to keep on going, right? The strength and the power and the compassion or whatever.
Yeah, I
And
think-
you found it
I
somehow.
found it, and I found by
You can't stop but doing it.
look, I wished I could have stopped going and doing those things,
Because?
but I felt I had
Obligation kind
an
of thing.
obligation to connect more people.
Yeah, because you know the bottleneck and how can it be bridged if you can.
Yeah, and for me to bridge it was to give them that
Media.
sense of empathy. Can they feel for those people? Because if we don't feel for people,
Exactly.
if we don't understand what's happening on
Yeah,
the shop
yeah,
floor,
yeah. No, nothing
then
works.
nothing works,
Right.
and the whole thing will fall to pieces.
Yeah, and nobody can get the sense unless you are there with the feeling and go through the reality of what's happening.
And we're in my industry, we're in a privileged position in the past, not so much now, where the documentaries and the films we made were for a huge amount of people around the world their only way to connect. If it was a shark documentary and it was watched by 50, 60 million people, what we said on that documentary became gospel. It's like if Sir David Attenborough said the sky's not blue, it's purple. Billions of people around the world would believe him.
Just quickly on that one, when you felt that movement and the reaction, what was your impression and their involvement? You felt something positive in what you do. That's basically what.
Yeah, it's justification for what you do. Because
Right.
for me, it's never been money.
Right, but that's just like my YouTube thing, audience, the numbers and the interest and how it can be connected. Yeah,
I need security. Everyone needs security.
right.
But what we need to understand is we don't need more. Of everything.
Yeah,
we
right.
just need enough.
Right,
And if we have enough,
right,
then how
We can
can we
see-
then give
right, right,
the rest to other people so that they can get an opportunity to have enough?
right.
Because there's enough in this world to go around. for
Yeah,
everyone.
I mean, look at what we got, right?
Yeah, if you took Elon Musk's fortune,
Yeah,
you could pay for everybody's food for 100 years.
yeah.
That's how much money he's got held up.
Did you calculate on that one? Or
No,
just
but just a rough guess. But that's a reality, and that's what's wrong with society is we don't need more. We don't need, and the reason why.
But the word, I think, what's the word? It's because of the society, but the society is just a human being, the ingredient, right? So each human has the flaw. Is that basically what it's come down to?
No, I don't think it's a human flaw. I think it's a programming flaw.
Yeah,
I think that Western
pushing
society pushes us into an idea. A good,
you're saying the
example
capitalism is the kind
a
of
good
driving.
example of that is economics.
And money talks.
We are taught right up till today now in every university in the world that the markers for a successful economy is growth, is GDP.
Right.
We live in a finite world. We cannot have infinite growth. It's just not possible.
Right.
So how can our leading institutions
be aware and
teach us that's something that's so wrong?
Yeah. There's this thing that my friend, I was at Boston Consulting Group, and his book was Competing Against Time. I was as a part of it, in a way, to streamline the business process and respond in a positive sense. But the mentality of competing against time with the stupidity of why are you doing it for? And that part is not in that equation when they talk about it. It's a selling idea and selling consulting and changing. I mean, I was part of it, but I was linked to the people to see they are part of the change instead of left behind kind of thing. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm talking more about me, my story too.
But it's the same story, because we're stuck in this rut, in this cycle at the moment, where we believe in this system of growth, and more is better.
So the bottleneck, where is the bottleneck? How to? That's the question, right? The stuff is running around the monkey mind and the people, and there's something missing. I keep saying that there's a heart behind it that is driving of us to be alive. The nature, ways of nature. Yeah. We are sitting on top of it. This is just a bubble, kind of.
I think we need to go back more to an indigenous way of thinking. meaning that most indigenous societies in the world understand connection.
Right.
In connection with the whenua, the land,
exactly.
The moana, the ocean.
This land, it doesn't belong to me.
I'm going down into the ground soon,
right?
And I will become the same minerals that make the dog up, that make the sky up, make the tree up.
We are equal.
We are the same,
right?
And we're just a different reincarnation.
So we're
of
just borrowing the land for some period of time, for the sake of us being there. It's nothing more than that. So it's totally nothing more.
Trying to hoard everything.
There's no such thing as possession, right? No. It's the Zen idea of nothingness at the end, But we may not think like that because the TV and media says you have to go there, you have to have that, you have this.
And the bottleneck is the programming. The bottleneck is that our entire education system teaches that methodology, that way of what we regard as success. Success is different. If you go, for instance, into the Pacific, you have a very different model, because one of the things that we search our whole lives for is security. So whether it's to own a piece of land, to own a house, to have a family around you, within Pacific Island societies, it works very differently. So when we grow up, by the time our kids reach 18, gone out of the house, and then they spend the next 20 years of their lives restructuring their family. So they create a new family with their friends and with a wife and with children, and then those children move away. In the islands, the security remains from the moment you're born to the moment you die. The land under your feet is yours. Your family is always there. When the kids are growing up, their grandparents are in the house, and they're there to teach the kids and to guide the grandkids and to make sure everything...
Continuity.
Yeah. And so that whole family, same in Japan, extended families are always together. One of the strongest points of societies like Japan and the Pacific Islands is that sense of family and that sense of place. We've been gifted a global economy, which means that we suddenly have the world as your oyster, if you like, but we're following a colonialist style of growth, in that we want to explore and expand. We want more,
and to the Mars.
And that's very much a Western thing. It's that philosophy that came from Britain, from
colonization,
colonization, and that leads all of our politics. It leads the way in which we structure everything in life.
So it's in the genes, actually.
Which is not in my genes.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah. So and that's a problem, because we need to, and you can, when you go to the Pacific, you find these beautiful children growing up in a complete society, and I come back with these beautiful photographs of kids in grass huts in the most remote places on the planet. And people go, "Oh my God, those poor children!
That's heaven, right?
They don't have TV."
Can I tell you? I go to the Maori land north of Kerikeri.
Yeah.
And that's heaven.
Yeah.
And there's no toy. And they get this, they use the unfunctionable microwave oven and use it for the, smoking the fish and all that kind of thing. Yeah. And they're happy.
Yeah.
So that's the detached state that you see, and you've seen that, you've seen the other side and how the game is playing.
So I'm in between those two worlds.
So you're
I'm happiest when I'm with those people in the Pacific, when I'm with family.
You feel restful and communicate.
But I live in a place where I have to earn money to pay for things in order. So I try and
detach yourself from that a little bit.
I try and use that opportunity to create something for good.
Yeah.
So all of the documentaries we work on, we just did a series in the Pacific last year, and we'll do it again next year, called She Leads. And the idea behind that was that young Pacific Island women struggled to break out and find good role models. So we did a series of women leaders in the Pacific, from politicians, business entrepreneurs, and we did interviews with 42 different women. And we've set up a template now so young Pacific Island women can watch these interviews and go, I could be an engineer, I could be a politician. And this year we're working on a mentorship program which will then connect that Polynesian youth.
So you're kind of like my empowerment kind of process that is to help them to read in that direction, right?
Yeah, and we do it within our Māori programs as well.
Let me stop on that one. I'm thinking the same kind of logic, but I'm just thinking the other thing, which is I want to retain some of the beauty of what they've got. Like, I was in Rarotonga, and someone invited for the wedding and all that, and there was a church, and they're singing. The whole church building is, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
I'm just want to see.
That is sense of place.
Well, they still retain that, right? And that's such a beauty in it.
Yeah. And it's that.
And how do we disconnect? I mean, isn't that the documentary kind of element that there is such society existing? To me, let me call it like a Garden of Eden is there.
Well, that's when people go to the Pacific, when they go to the Solomon Islands or they go to these really remote places,
right.
And they come away and they go, "That was the most amazing holiday
right.
I've ever had." And I meet them on the airplane, or
right.
and so what was it about it? And they can't put a finger on it. But what it is that those people have sense of place. They're fulfilled. They've got
and they have a time, not competing against time.
Not competing against time. And if you want to go and do something, well, it's just whenever the guy's ready to take you.
Right.
You can wait for hours for a meeting to meet somebody, and and it's just normal.
Yeah.
And I think people, even if you look back on society here, I think about my parents growing up, and my dad worked really hard, but he worked 9 till 5 days a week. And when he finished work at 5 o'clock, there was no connection with cell phones or with his office or anything.
So may I just interject, because that issue about the Maori people's uprising, I don't know if that's the right word or not, but is there kind of root coming from that connected for them to have that sustaining some of the values and so forth, to not to be
I think the difference between indigenous cultures and that capitalist
right.
colonizing culture is that you've got someone like Shane Jones who goes, dig baby dig, let's mine the Coromandel.
Yeah.
For us as Māori, our connection with the land is really important. In fact, we treat our land and our rivers as ancestors.
Right.
And so to make sure that our ancestors survive it's nonsensical, because you have to do it, because if we destroy the land,
right.
we've got nothing.